Well, greetings everyone, and welcome back to our Standing Watch program. We have told you for years that a United States of Europe will be at odds with the United States of America, and that continental Europe will not be on friendly terms with Great Britain. And we have also told you for years that continental Europe will end up in a configuration which will represent a unity between church and state. And what I'm going to report to you today about events which happened this week show how these things are happening, how they are coming to fruition in the light of biblical prophecy, because that is what it's all about. Let me first of all read to you from an article which was published by the Telegraph, dated September 20. We are fed up with Europe. Britain has become a slave to the EU. When Britain voted to stay in the European Economic Community in 1975, the country was promised it would be a common market. Yet over time, we have been drawn relentlessly into an ever closer union with the continent. For many Britons, the EU has already become a kind of occupying force, setting unfamiliar rules, demanding levies, curbing freedoms, subverting our culture, and imposing alien taxes. In less than 4 decades, Britain has become enslaved to Europe. Brussels has become a burdensome yoke, disfiguring Britain's independence and diluting her sovereignty. In a follow-up article by the Financial Times, which was published on September 19, the following was stated. British Airways faces a bill of nearly 50 million euros, the highest of any airline, when carriers around the world are brought into the European Union's carbon emissions trading scheme next year. But you see, it's not only going to involve Britain. It is also going to involve American airlines, and the same article says that the US has already started legal actions against this proposed scheme. When Britain thinks that they are already enslaved by Brussels, well, I have sad news for them. What they're experiencing now is nothing in comparison to what the Bible says is going to happen. Because the Bible makes it very clear, my friends, believe it or not, that Britain will be quite literally enslaved or held captive by the European states once they have finally formed. Our booklet, The Fall and Rise of Britain and America, makes that very clear. And if you have not read it, please do so. And while you're at it, please also read our booklet, The Great Tribulation and the Day of the Lord, which also points out what is going to happen to Britain and to America. Because the relationship between continental Europe and America is also continuously deteriorating as it was prophesied to happen. Let's read this article by the EU Observer, dated September 19. An unprecedented visit by US Treasury Secretary Tim Geithner to a meeting of European finance ministers in Poland was coolly received by the gathered European economy chiefs. A number of EU ministers felt that Geithner had overstepped his bounds. Austrian Finance Minister Maria Fechter said of this discussion, "I found it peculiar that the Americans, although they themselves have significantly worse fundamental data than the euro area, explain to us what we should do, and when we make a proposal, they say no right away." And of course, subsequently, we found that the Dow Jones plunged, that 3 major US banks were downgraded, and of course, the Europeans aren't happy about that at all. Listen to this one by Deutsche Welle, dated September 17. Germany has called for the Eurozone to go it alone if necessary and implement a financial tax despite opposition from the US and the UK. And also, as the events are unfolding in New York, notice what the New York Times wrote on September 21. President Nicolas Sarkozy of France broke sharply on Wednesday with the effort by the Obama administration and some Europeans to quash the effort by the Palestinians for recognition here, instead calling for enhancing their status in the General Assembly to that of an observer state. The French leader, speaking from the famous green marble podium of the General Assembly barely an hour after President Obama, also said it was time to change the formula in trying to negotiate an Arab-Israeli peace, taking an indirect swipe at the United States by saying the efforts so far were a complete failure. Can we see how the deteriorating relationship between the United States of America and continental Europe is increasing? And at the same time, the relationship between continental Europe and Great Britain is also deteriorating. I'd like to now use a few minutes to talk to you about the Pope's visit in Germany, something which, of course, has drawn a lot of attention over there in Europe and in Germany in particular, not so much over here in the United States. But it was quite a remarkable visit, and it's still ongoing as I speak. Deutsche Welle wrote on September 18 that German Chancellor Merkel urged Christians to unite. It goes on to say, I think it's important to constantly reinforce the unity of Christians at a time when we are confronted by growing secularism, Merkel said. When the Christian faith has in common, that should always be remembered. BBC News added on September 22, Chancellor Angela Merkel, daughter of a Lutheran pastor who grew up in East Germany, said Christian unity would be the focus of the Pope's visit. Even though there was a lot of criticism already ahead of the Pope's visit, and even when he arrived, we should not underestimate the hype the media has exhorted towards that visit. The mass tabloid Bild wrote in big, huge letters again, "We are Pope." Many papers and many magazines report constantly on live ticklers, so to speak, events and movements of the Pope as to what he is doing. Talking about these live tickers, you probably heard about them. Catholic Bundestag President Norbert Lammer said, when welcoming the Pope to the German Parliament, because he gave a speech there, never before in history has the Pope spoken in front of an elected German Parliament. According to Die Welt online, Lammert also added that we must not only talk about unification of the Catholic and the Protestant churches, but that we must also do something to bring it about. And then we hear about a private meeting between the Pope and Angela Merkel, which to a large extent had to do with talking about the future of Europe. And then we have this article by Deutsche Welle dated September 22. Amid gun salutes and military music, Pope Benedict XVI was greeted in Berlin on Thursday by German President Christian Wulff. He greeted the Pope with the words, "Welcome home, Holy Father." In his address, Wulff said that millions of people would be looking forward to his visit. Although church and state are separated in Germany, he added, that did not mean that the church was parallel to society. It was the center of society. Your visit will strengthen Christians and all people in Germany, Wulff told the Pope. The concept of unification between the Catholic and the Protestant Church and all the other churches which are kind of part of the Protestant Church, that is a topic which has been on the forefront of many people. And the Bible is telling us very clearly that such a unification is going to come to pass, but not in the way as most people expected. The Pope, even on this visit now, made very clear the Catholic Church is the only true church. There is no other church. Those Protestant churches, he said one time, they are not really churches. In any event, they have to come back to the Catholic Church, being put under the umbrella of the Catholic Church, accepting the teachings and the doctrines of the Catholic Church. That is a condition. That is going to happen. Now, most people today don't believe that that's going to happen, but the Bible says very clearly it is. Because the Bible also tells you that in these end times in which we are living, the ancient Roman Empire is going to be revived one more time. It is going to be a unification between church and state. We read that the woman, a religious power, is riding the beast, a military power. We also read that ultimately 10 nations or groups of nations will give their power and their authority to the beast, as it says, a very charismatic economic, political, and military leader in Europe of German descent. And he will work hand in hand with the final leader of the Catholic Church. And most people will be surprised and they will be taken in, because we also read that that leader, that religious leader, will receive power to work miracles. And people will think this now is a sign from God. But you see, what is being taught is not going to be in accordance with the Bible. And people will be deceived all over the world. And what we are seeing right now are the beginning stages of all the things which are going to happen, because the Bible also tells you that a war is going to ensue between the United States of America and Great Britain on the one hand, and actually the state of Israel included, and the continental United States of Europe. That's going to be prophesied. And as I said, that United States of Europe, in Europe, will be ultimately a unification between church and state. I found it very interesting. I was reading an article by the German paper Die Zeit talking about the Pope's visit. And in this article, there were certain statements made, and then there were comments published. And one comment was very revealing. This person, I don't know who it is, said, well, we should also remember what the Catholic Church and some of those popes have done in the past, and let's hope this dark past is not going to be repeated. I thought that was a very insightful comment. Today I looked at it again because I wanted to quote it to you in its entirety, and guess what? It had been removed from the website of Die Zeit. I wonder why. You may wonder why as well. My friends, things are coming to pass. They are going to happen. But we should be aware and awake as to what the Bible tells us, how we individually must react when it's going to occur. Thanks very much. Until next time, this is Norbert Link for the Standing Watch program.